Every year on February 2nd, the world waits patiently to see if more weeks of winter is on the schedule.
It's Punxsutawney Phil!
The crazy thing is, the groundhog is always wrong. You see, the start of spring begins in March, either on the 1st if you're a meteorologist or around the 21st if you're a normal person, which is a little more than 6 weeks from the prediction. But although technically spring has started, it does not necessarily mean that winter has ended. I think we can all recall a time from our childhood where we experienced an early spring snowstorm or a cold snap that brought us back to reality from our summer break dreams. And this year really hasn't been much different. Since the start of spring, we have seen two widespread snow-producing storms, and the forecast is hinting at another hard freeze and snow the first week of April. I'll touch on that in just a bit, but this forecast and my past experience has me questioning the end of winter. When is it safe to finally put those boots and shovels away? Really, the data shocked me. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration ranks significant snowstorms on the eastern two-thirds of the U.S. using the Regional Snowfall Index. These records go back all the way to 1900 and help quantify and categorize snowstorms, kind of like the Saffir-Simpson hurricane scale. The Regional Snowfall Index has 6 categories ranging from 0 to 5, or nuisance to extreme. Storms are placed in these categories based on their RSI value, which is calculated based on region, population, and area of the snowfall. For context, only 26 storms have been ranked a Category 5 and 48 Category 4s. From this collection of winter storms since 1900, this chart describes the distribution based on month. And surprise, it's quite normal and what you'd expect. The busiest months are January and February, with dwindling totals for March and into April. The actual surprising elements come when you filter these storms based on region, which are the Northern Rockies and Plains, the Upper Midwest, the Ohio Valley, the South, the Southeast, and the Northeast, and only include the historically strong ones. This chart shows the 25 worst winter storms between 1900 and 2013 for the Northern Rockies and Plains. Not only are strong spring storms possible, they dwarf the totals from the previous months, with 8 in the top 25 snowstorms for this region occurring in April. In fact, the third worst storm in U.S. history occurred in the second week of April 1927, with a staggering RSI value of 34.2. Pictures of the event are scarce, with some newspapers touching on the storm, but I'd say there aren't many people, if any, that remember the storm at all. So a more modern example and an even later storm is the April 1984 blizzard that hit from the 24th to the 27th of the month. This was another Category 5 that covered parts of the Dakotas, Montana, and Wyoming with feet of snow. Unsurprisingly, the southern regions have the weakest distribution of winter storms by month, as it's typically just too warm by late March and early April to worry about snow, and our main focus shifts more towards the severe weather threat. But oftentimes, the storm systems that do bring a severe weather threat down south cause major winter headaches farther north. For the Ohio Valley and the Northeast, March and April can mean getting the cold end of the system, and no storm fits that bill better than the historic March 12, 1993 storm of the century. If the nickname doesn't sell you on it, this was an utterly impressive late-season winter storm that is infamous across the eastern U.S. for its intensity, incredible size, and its impact. Stretching from Canada to Honduras at its peak, it brought snow to Georgia and Alabama, into the Ohio Valley, and then into the Northeast. On top of the snow, 11 tornadoes occurred throughout the state of Florida on the 12th. Overall, though, the storm was easily a Category 5 with an RSI score of 24.63. Our final region, the Upper Midwest, has been fairly active this spring so far and has a pretty even distribution of storms throughout the winter months into March. This chart only includes storms until 2013, but recently a record-setting Category 4 storm arrived in April of 2018. This blizzard was the second worst snowstorm in Green Bay history and dropped over a foot of snow on the Twin Cities. It's also quite memorable for spurring an outbreak of 73 tornadoes over the span of 3 days, from Texas all the way to the Atlantic coast. Alright, well, I will cut the groundhog some slack, as some of these March storms are within that 6-week window. But this year, he said we were in for an early spring, and the forecast for the next week isn't really agreeing with him. Let's take a look and see if 2024 has some early spring snowstorms up its sleeve. A Pacific storm is looking to impact the West Coast this weekend before moving towards the Rockies right in time for April Fool's Day on the 1st. From there, a deepening low-pressure system will track generally northeast through the Midwest, Ohio Valley, and into the Northeast from Monday through Thursday. As severe storms target the south, heavy snow will fall from Iowa and Wisconsin through the Great Lakes before dropping more snow into northern New England. Will this be a storm that we remember for years as a legendary April snowstorm? Well, probably not, but it serves to show that winter does not always end by March.